when do you think the general election is going to be? Some people are saying, especially after the very successful presentation, articulation of the budget, by Lawrence Wong, he's kind of ready.
For sure, Lawrence will take over before the next GE. I think he already said that. And so question is when. I think the best time would be July-August period. And GE possibly quite soon actually.
End of this year.
End of this year.
Good morning, Inderjit Singh.
Morning, Wiswa.
How are you?
Good.
Right, so I'm going to start by showing you something, a photograph, that would bring us down memory lane. Okay? Remember this picture?
Yeah, the end of that session.
2011.
Yeah.
2011, in Parliament, we took this picture together. Yeah. And at that point, when we took this picture, we had no idea it was going to be the last day in Parliament for Mr. Cham Si Tong.
Yes.
The legendary Member of Parliament for the opposition.
Yet we took nice pictures with him.
Yeah, and in fact, quite a few of the members of Parliament here, it was our last day, it was my last day in Parliament, but you stayed on for one more term. And for someone like you, who served 4 terms as a Member of Parliament for the PAP, the ruling party, 4 years from 1996 to 2015. Can you tell me candidly, how has the DNA of the PAP changed over the years?
So you see, it all changes with the change of leadership, isn't it? Yeah. So there was Lee Kuan Yew. I was fortunate to have some interaction with him because when we came in, he was still very active. No longer the Prime Minister. Goh Chok Tong was the Prime Minister when I came in.
But when you were an activist, he was Prime Minister.
He was Prime Minister, yeah. And then Goh Chok Tong, and then so the style changes and the DNA also changes down the line.
Would you be comfortable describing the 3 Prime Ministers?
Well, I gave the Prime Minister some advice after we did very badly in 2011. So I wrote him a long email and I told him this. So I said,
this is Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong.
Yeah. So I told him that, your father's style was autocratic. One man decided, everyone followed. And I told him that Goh Chok Tong's style was consultative. He consults before he makes the decision. And I told the Prime Minister, your style is distributed. And I told him, you need to pull it in a bit because not everyone is as good as you. So you need to pull in the bit and have it a bit of a hybrid of Goh Chok Tong and Lee Kuan Yew style if you really want to. And so this is how I'll describe the different styles.
How did you convey this to him? Verbally or?
I started with it because, I wanted to be very careful. So I had, sent him an email, then we verbally, because I was working with him for many years, 24 years.
So you would be familiar enough and he would be familiar enough with you, a certain level of trust for you to be critical.
Yes.
How critical were you?
Oh, I was very critical. I mean, if let's say you look at my Parliament speeches, when he was Finance Minister.
Frankly, I thought it was wayang.
No. For me, it was never wayang. There would have been some wayang along the way for other people, but for me, it was never wayang.
How can you say so clearly? And
no, because I'm the one. I my speeches. I never send my speeches for vetting. I think the clearest was my 2013 population white paper speech that I gave. I mean, I remember that. I took them to task on some of the things, but even before that, on the economic policies, on the population policies, I had started talk about early streaming in schools. So
and also about, of course, your pet topic, SMEs.
And SMEs, yeah. So when I started in 97, my family business in 97, UTech, my semiconductor company in 98, faced tremendous difficulties. I could not raise funds in Singapore. Most of my funds for my company, UTech, came from Taiwan. I raised $138 million, mostly came from Taiwan. Yeah. So I saw the difficulty and I made it my task in Parliament, whatever time I'm going to spend down there to go and try to change the environment. So I
to help other SMEs.
Future SMEs.
Yes. And you were a member of the board of Spring Singapore.
Spring, yeah. In fact, from PSB, Spring, then we took on that role and so on. So my, that was my core focus on how to change the environment so that we will be SME friendly and entrepreneurship friendly.
So going back to how critical you were, I remember when I was a nominated member of parliament in 2009, 2010, I was we knew each other as friends, but I must say, I was quite surprised by how critical you were and how blunt you were in parliament. Many of us assumed that you survived because you were in the good books of Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, you were in the same ward, and therefore you could survive. Because honestly, the general sentiment was anyone who would say things as bluntly as you did, and you have been, would not survive politically. Was there pressure on you from other political office holders? Because you spoke quite critically against some of them as well.
Yeah. So, Prime Minister encouraged me to speak my mind. So, it was never a pressure from him to
So never, not even once.
Well, 2013 population white paper, and 2014, there were issues, but I was on my way out anyway. I was planning to leave. So, but no, not at all. Some of the ministers, of course, tried to put pressure, but you'll be surprised at the kind of discussions we had in closed doors. It was worse than in Parliament, actually.
Closed doors meaning?
So, for example,
within the party.
Within the party, or government GPCs. So I was in a couple of GPC, especially finance trade industry, which I spent most of my time doing.
You are chairing the GPC.
Chairing for some time, and so we had lots of. So actually, in Parliament was quite obvious, but even beyond in the closed doors, I was also very critical. So the idea here was not to waste my time.
Could you give us an example, without going into specifics, an example of one of those behind the scenes, robust, honest discussions?
When we were doing upgrading programs, and we were adding utility rooms to some of the 3-room flats. So we were having a utility room that was, I think, 4.5 meter by 4.5 meter. Nice to put one bed, one study table, become an extra room. The Minister for National Development thought that he could be smarter to do more, make it into a smaller room and save some money. And that room would have been a useless room. Yeah. And I was chairman of Ang Mo Kio Town Council. I'm going to reject them. I'm not going to do it in Ang Mo Kio unless you change your policy. So they tried to explain to me why it's going to work. Of course, it was not going to work. Too small a room. I'm on the ground, I know. And then, a few months later, they reversed the policy and went back to.
So in your view, it is a fact that there is a lot of honest jostling, debates in the best interests of the country and the people behind the scenes.
There is.
Within the party.
There is, within the party, yes, there is.
Do you believe that over the years that has sort of tapered off?
Yeah, so it all depends on who are the MPs, right? So I think we have a mix of both types who basically rather keep it safe, but we also have some good ones who are questioning. So they do question in Parliament, and I'm sure at the background there's also a lot of discussion. So I think, it's all going to be a function of who are the people involved.
And who the leaders.
And of course, if you look at the trend, the 2020 election, we lost one more GRC, the vote count comes down. MPs are working very hard on the ground, and I'm sure they want to see improvement for the sake of the party and, for Singapore. And I'm quite sure many of them, some of them has, a few, not many, but, expressing frustrations about some of the changes that need to happen. And I'm sure they are also raising it with the leaders. So I think there is backroom dialogue that goes on that is useful for Singapore, not just in Parliament.
Okay. I have a lot of regard for the People's Action Party, don't get me wrong. But one of the things I can't get my head around is why is it that in opposition wards like Aljunied, Hougang, Sengkang, the losing candidate of the People's Action Party is the advisor of the grassroots organizations. See, it's things like this that actually can grate on the ground, And I guess people on the ground, especially the younger people for whom justice and fairness means a lot, I think some of these things, if it's not changed, it may be hard for the People's Action Party to continue to garner the kind of ground support, Because they have not, the younger generation, I'm talking about 40 and below, they have not really experienced the tough years of the 1960s, 70s like you and I. So even when we are upset with the government, when we cast our minds back to the 60s and 70s, the overarching emotion is gratitude, right?
Yeah.
But the younger generation have not had the experience of that. So how would you respond to this? I would say that this is one of the key Achilles heel of the PAP.
Yeah, and it shows in the results, right? So with declining vote.
It shows.
And so I think if you look at it from the perspective of the party, not from government, right? Yeah. So whoever is the ruling party will want to strengthen their position. And they will use whatever agencies, tools that they have to gain advantage over the opposition. And the one lesson I learned from Lee Kuan Yew was that if you're in a farm government, you need to win elections first. Mm-hmm. So we have to focus on winning elections. Now, so whether being in control of PA is going to help us win more votes or less votes, I think this is something may change over time. But I think in the PAP, the belief probably still is that that's an important avenue to reach out to residents and therefore, opportunity for their potential candidates to get support. So,
but there is a premium for this adage, free and fair election.
Yeah, so the question is, if had Workers' Party or any other party been government, what would they do? So my message to the opposition parties here is this, that form your own grassroots organizations. They have enough support in each of the constituencies where they are. Form your own organizations. And this is not worth fighting this because it's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
It's not going to change. And if you look at it from the logical perspective, which they use to explain, is that it's opportunity is organization that helps to explain and implement government policies. So it's a government thing and it's not a party thing. And they want to have someone in charge who they actually can work with. And so that is the official explanation.
But I don't think it's going down too well on the ground.
So it may be changing, and I think this is something they have to address. If you go to the premise to form government, we need to win votes. Then if we're going to lose vote over this thing, then I think they have to rethink about it. But I think at this point of time, they probably still believe that it's still going to help them win more votes than lose more votes. So it's not just PA. It's going to be about the rest of the things that they perform.
The conduct of office holders in Parliament.
That's one. And also some of the things that they are doing, say the Rasia Khan case, the long interviews and so on. So I think...
You're talking about the Committee of Privileges Select Committee.
That's right, yeah. So the way the thing... So I think people felt bullying down there too, okay? Although the idea was to uncover truth, but it was perceived that way. So this kind of shows to me a signal that they may feel that we need to bring this back a bit to the old style, instill a bit of fear, so that people will be cautious about joining the opposition. My assessment. By the way, I must qualify this that I am no longer an insider. I don't get involved in anything. So this is my assessment. So and if let's say the leaders believe that this is going to be an important style for them to be stronger, and then they will do more of this, which I think they're
okay. That's interesting, right? Because the sense I get and some other observers get is that the 4G leaders, led by Lawrence Wong, would like to see a softer, gentler approach, a more democratic approach, more tolerant of dissenting views. Okay, that's the sense one gets. So there's a sense that we may see a kind of a balance in having someone like Minister Shanmugam move up to be Deputy Prime Minister, perhaps overseeing national security, coordinating minister and so on, with Minister Chan Chun Sing perhaps as another DPM. Is that an accurate prognosis?
I mean, let's say we look at how are we going to be able to run it efficiently, the government,
the balance
party,
between
right?
the
So you really
young.
Need to do that balance. So let's say there was too much of distribution, you need to pull it back, which is happened. And so when 4G leadership take over, I think they will need to have some of the strong
man.
and strong points where they will have to manage it a bit more rigorously and strongly.
Also, would you say that the people on the ground also would have greater confidence if there's one old experienced hand over there, in a critical area like defense and security?
I think we'll have more than one old experienced man in the next cabinet. I don't think so. Lee Hsien Loong needs to completely retire, so he will probably be around. And
he's likely to be a SM
or MM. Up to him to what title he wants.
What are the chances of Minister Shanmugam becoming DPM?
I think he is a solid person in terms from the party perspective. Even stability of government and when he has to defend government position internally or externally, he does a good job at it. He's good at it. So it makes a lot of sense to have someone like that supporting.
Do you think the ground would want that?
Who?
Do you think the ground, the populace?
So there will be, we must look at the sections of the ground. I think maybe the younger generation may want to see a more friendly leadership. For those, maybe they may not like it. But I think there will be a group of people, maybe in the middle age.
40s and above,
who actually prefer stability. And then, someone who can help to do that. And the reason why some of them may want this is because I think the 4G has got a very short runway, like you mentioned earlier on. So it will be quite risky to put everything into 4G.
And it's not fair on them.
Not fair too. And so it's good to have that, someone directly involved in cabinet. Minister mentor is one thing, but even directly involved. So it makes sense for someone like Shan from the party's perspective, and I think it makes sense for, as far as they are concerned, to create that stability. And Lawrence may want it also, so that he can focus on building the ground support. So
Inderjit, to shift gears, because we're coming to the end of the interview, I'd like to hear your predictions. When do you think the handover of the Prime Ministership to Lawrence Wong is going to be? And when do you think the general election is going to be? Some people are saying, especially after the very successful articulation of the budget, by Lawrence Wong, he's kind of ready. The people are ready to accept him. Why delay? The handover could be even as early as July this year, so that he then gives the National Day rally speech with PM saying a goodbye segment, something like that. People are talking about that, and GE end of this year. What's your prediction?
Yeah. So I think for sure Lawrence will take over before the next GE. I think he already said that, and so question is when. I think the best time would be July-August period.
This year.
Mm-hmm. Whether pre or post National Day rally, I'm not so sure how they're going to.
The two of them may still be involved.
Yeah, may be involved, and GE possibly quite soon actually.
End of this year.
End of this year, even earlier.
October.
We've got, I would say, a budget that looks like an election budget, goodies all around, and so they may actually use that as opportunity. Otherwise, you wait another budget. National Day rally, you can give a few more good things, and then you can go soon after that. So I think this is how it may play out. But there's a huge risk because the big problems that concern many Singaporeans are not going to be solved by this election, correct? Because of the cost of living, housing, and so on and so forth. So this will take some time, and I don't know that whether all the handouts that we got are going to
solve the big.
It won't solve the big
the wicked problems.
Yeah, and people probably are thinking that we did not really solve the problem and we're just trying to win votes. So this is a risk that they're taking.
Yeah.
My own personal opinion is that the budget will have limited impact. The bigger issues are the ones that are going to be important. If Singaporeans don't see a sense of hope and opportunity in the future, then I think our cause is a loss.
So this sounds like deja vu, because I want to quote you. In 2013, you said this, and 2014. Right, 2013, you said this. I feel the time has come for us to find a better balance between economic growth and social cohesion. I remember this. Yes, there will be trade-offs, but I would rather see a cohesive, united nation where people feel taken care of. You said that in 2013. 2014, a decade ago, you said, if every Singaporean can feel their life has become better than yesterday, then this government would have done its job well. And you also said you worry for the middle-aged and middle class. Now, these are wicked problems. They're not going to go away overnight. I don't think any government can just, swing the wand and see this miraculously go away. But has the needle, in your view, moved enough in the past decade for it to translate into votes for the PAP?
So I think it's not moved significantly.
Is it because of factors beyond the control of the government, the ruling party?
So I think the cost of living issues, the housing problems were all within control of the government. Just a job not well done.
Okay.
And so we are seeing the ills of it. So if they had done a better job, I don't think so we needed to face so serious problem. So it would have been in the control of the government.
So they could have done something.
They could have done something. But now to solve this will take very long-term view of things before we see it. And if you don't feel the impact in the next GE, actually it could translate to work. The other thing is that we typically, I've done 4 elections and we target different sections of society on where we think we can win the votes. One assumption that has been for a long time, there are 2 assumptions. One is we do a GE in times of a crisis. Votes will look for a party safer. So
the incumbent.
Incumbent, yeah. Safe, proven. And second one is that young adults with family members will not risk an opposition vote. We failed in both. Yeah. All right, and so
we meaning the PAP.
PAP. So the clearest one was the last election we lost Sengkang. Sengkang population was young adults with families. They got houses down there, and they should have been the one who really supported us. And it was in a crisis, in a COVID environment, and we did this in 2001, September 11, Jemaah Islamiyah.
Yes.
People panicked, and we won. Yeah. Very well.
People vote conservatively.
So this, I think the PAP need to re-examine these assumptions, and I'm sure they are doing it because they have to win votes and whether it's going to work. My own opinion is that this election, I don't think so the needle will shift a lot towards the PAP. The heartlanders who have got a lot of support in this budget probably will be very happy. So that's also a very important segment. So I think they can expect to get good support on that. The middle group, I think they worry about the future. Yeah. And then the elderly, the very old, I think they are also very happy. The young, they want to look at who are the candidates.
The personality. And so I analyzed the last election results, as I did all the past ones. If you look at it, in the past, long time ago, you just need to have a PAP logo and can be anyone. We used to get 50% easily, and then it's the party.
It's a party. And you put Workers' Party, and you put, I'm talking about a long time ago, you get maybe 25%. But in the last election, the Workers' Party logo itself is capable of 40%. And I analyzed where I'm staying in Perim Parade. Good candidates from the PAP, relatively unknown from Workers' Party, and they scored 40%. So my analysis is that, just Workers' Party,
the brand
is there, and if they can bring good qualified candidate as good or better than the PAP, then the risk is a lot more higher for the PAP. So this coming election is a very important one for the PAP because it's a handover election and also mandate. And they have to think about how they're going to at least not be worse than the last one.
So in the interest of time, we need to wrap. As a final statement, very succinctly, what is your advice to the leadership of the PAP for the upcoming election?
I think they really need to get in touch and understand the real issues on the ground. They're trying their best with all the TikToks, funny things that they do. I think that only is going to address a small section. You really need to have Singaporeans feel that I understand your problem. I cannot solve it today, but believe me, I can solve it in the future. Whether they believe you or not is very important. And I mentioned many times in articles that I wrote post GE analysis, trust. Do they trust you? And I think we are losing ground on that portion, and we have to regain that trust. We can do that, then I think maybe we'll be okay.
Mr. Inderjit Singh, thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure.
Thank you.